You're listening to Mr. Credit on San Diego 1700 with local credit expert Derek Evans. Now, live in studio, Mr. Credit.
Welcome to Mr. Credit. We are live and local here in San Diego, bringing you the most important hour in radio and telling you everything they don't want you to know. When I say they, I mean the bureaus, the banks, the government. And oh yes, the media is involved in all this as well. Padres have lost 2 in a row, but have regained the lead in the NL West by half a game over LA, thanks to a 3-game losing streak by the Dodgers. Tonight we're in Toronto at 7 p.m. Catch all of the Padres action right here on San Diego 1700. Save this station in your dial. Today we're going to be talking about payday loans, something I don't get into much, don't really recommend for most people, but there is an argument for them. I'll go over a couple of things involved with that and some of the legislation that's coming down hard on the payday lenders. Also going to be talking about why Experian is the worst ever. I'm not even going to say the worst credit bureau, they're just the worst ever. We'll tell you all the reasons why and give you an update on what's happening with foreclosures, the real data about what's happening there. Today's show brought to you by Ed Paula with Paula Financial Services. Let me tell you something about Ed real quick. If you need solutions for your real estate, regardless of whether it's a loan modification, a refinance, one of these neat new programs where you can refinance even if you're late or upside down on the home, really cool stuff, call Ed Paula at 866-870-8282. Ed knows everything about how all these things work. He can even help you short sell your property if you ultimately decide that's what's going to be best for you. Way better than foreclosure, obviously. But Ed cares about you, and he'll help you make the best decision. He can help you stay in your home or short sell your home if that's ultimately what you decide is best. 866-870-8282. 866-870-8282. Okay, let's get to this Yahoo article really quick. I always think it's funny when Yahoo is out there putting articles about credit, because it's always from some third party. They publish it on their site, and it's always garbage. And this one couldn't be worse. It's 5 keys to unlocking a better credit score. Okay, tip number 1: pay more than the minimum payments. Well, I mean, duh. Okay, I mean we know that we want to pay more than the minimum payments on our credit cards. There's no doubt about that. We know that if we just pay the minimum payments on our credit cards, that the card issuing bank is able to apply the principal portion of that balance to the lower interest portions first. So we have to pay more than the minimum. That's a duh, but that's not really a, hey, this is going to help your credit score. That's more of a save money. I mean, what really should be, tip number 1 is keep the balances on your credit cards below 50% of the limits. That's where you can really affect your credit score. Okay, when the balance on your credit cards goes above 50% of the limits, then you start to lose points significantly. And the higher the balances go, the more points you lose, until you actually get to the limit or over the limit, which is the worst. So that's really what the tip should say. Pay more than the minimum means nothing. I mean, just, what, pay $5 more than the minimum? Is that going to get me a better credit score? I mean, come on. This is not necessarily a good tip. Tip number 2, work out a plan. Most people don't realize that if they're behind on their debt payments and are going through some trying times, their lenders will often reconsider negotiating a revised payment plan or possibly forgiving a portion of the debt. What are you talking about? Especially when it comes to credit cards. I mean, I have yet to see any lender negotiate with someone who wasn't drastically in arrears. If you are drastically in arrears, your credit score has already taken a big ding. And if it's the case that you've actually been sent to collections, your credit score is down at least 75 to 100 points. At that point, will they negotiate with you on a payment plan or maybe settling the debt for much less? Of course. But if you create a payment plan with a collection, remember, that doesn't help you. In fact, that can actually hurt you. If someone says, hey, we're going to take you to court, we're going to sue you over this debt that you owe that's now a collection on your credit report, and you say, okay, hold on, let's work out a payment plan, I can pay $200 a month, and they agree to it. Remember, they're not going to update the balance every month. So even if you pay the thing on time 10 months in a row, you're not going to be getting any credit for it. You're still going to have a collection on your credit report. Okay? Worse more, if it's the case that they update that account every month and they don't change the balance, even if they do, that recent activity on a collection account is actually going to drive your score down further. And we know for a fact, whenever you pay it off, they're going to update the activity date, make it more recent, and hurt the score even more. So working out a plan is not necessarily what's going to help you get a higher credit score. it sounds good. These sound more like financial tips. Because, yeah, you do want to have a plan, but what they're telling you here is not going to help you have a better credit score. This is tip number 1 and tip number 2. Yahoo Finance. 5 keys to unlocking a better credit score. I disagree. The truth there is you need to know your specific situation and what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing from there, because it's going to be different for everybody. And working out a plan usually means that things are already bad, and you don't want to make them worse. Tip number 3, switch from credit to debit cards. Huh? If I can't afford to pay my credit cards, you want me to switch and start paying for everything in cash? Then what do I do with my credit cards at that point? Do I just flush them down the toilet? Wish I had a sound for that. Do we? We'll get it on there. So, what do I do with my credit debt then? Because I have to pay that, don't I? Or, what about the fact that 30% of your credit score is based on having credit cards? So you just throw them away, forget the debts, get the collections, and start using cash, and just watch your credit score get smashed? Don't! You got to be careful about this stuff. I'm telling you, everything that's posted in the media is garbage. I mean, there's very rarely something that's even worth taking in. Now, I know this thing had like 136 comments on it, which means there's thousands of people reading it. Boy, what a shame. What a shame. Much better off going MrCreditEducation.com. Go to MrCreditEducation.com and you'll actually get the reality of the situation, what's good and what's not good to do. Switching from credit to debit, get out of here. You're out of your mind. You want to have credit cards, okay? Now, you don't want to necessarily have big balances on those credit cards. So if you had the ability to switch from credit to debit, then yes, you should go in and, make the payments on your credit cards as much as possible. Pay them off if you can. That's ideal, But you don't want to get rid of them. You need them. It's 30% of the credit score. What do you want to lose 100 points for no reason? Come on, get out of here. Tip number 4, cut up those store cards. Oh my goodness. These guys, I think they're sabotaging you. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a bureau who's behind an article like this, because it sounds good. Everything sounds good. These tips say, hey, cut up those store cards. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to cut up those store cards, stinking store cards. But is that really going to help you have a better credit score? Remember, you need to have credit cards. Now, the Macy's cards and Sears cards and stuff like that, are they good ones to have? Sure. All credit cards are good ones to have. They are. Now, are any credit cards good ones to have good high balances on? No. That's not what we want. We don't want you to have balances on these credit cards. We want you to have very small balances that you pay off every month. Very small. But you need to use them if you want to have the highest credit score possible. Saw a credit report over the weekend where a fella had no business having 720 credit score, had a big collection, a repossession, had a couple of really, really negative things on there. But you know what? He had about a dozen credit cards, and they all had small balances on them. And that's how you can, beat the system. You have to know how it works. And the last thing you want to do is listen to terrible advice like this. Cut up those store cards. Come on. Hey, here's the thing. If you want to put them away, put them in the safe. Take the credit card, put it in the safe. Don't necessarily use it. Don't have it there staring at you. But you don't want to cut it up, and you certainly do not want to close the account. You want to keep it open. One thing that's funny in here that caught my attention for a second, it says the bad news is that the more open accounts you have, the lower your credit score will be. What are you talking about? This is completely wrong, folks. This is completely wrong. It's not the more open accounts you have, the lower your credit score will be. It's the more bad open accounts you have, the lower your credit score will be. I probably have 50 to 60 accounts on my credit report. My credit score is very good. Now, the reason is because all of those accounts are helping me. And you can do the same thing. You just got to know how it works. Tip number 5, add comments to your credit report. Let me take you know what? I think the Three Stooges wrote this. I really do. I think the Three Stooges wrote these 5 tips. Add comments to your credit report. Listen to this. Often when you pursue your credit report, or peruse your credit report, you find an error. Perhaps you paid off a particular loan isn't reflected on the report. There are legitimate errors why a particular debt hasn't been satisfied, such as a temporary disability. In these instances, your first recourse should be to contact the credit agency, request they make the appropriate changes. Fibbers beware, you will probably have to provide some documentation. But they're telling you basically to add comments. Now, everyone can add up to 120 characters on each account as comments by the consumer. That affects your credit score not at all. Does absolutely nothing to affect the credit score whatsoever. It might make you feel better, but it does absolutely nothing because it isn't validated